My name is Sakari Vanderveer, and I'm based in Southern California, kind of in the greater Los Angeles area, which is also where I grew up. I got into music in elementary school, started playing violin in fourth grade, the typical thing, in the public school program, of course. And I actually didn't pick up my main instrument's the viola. I actually didn't pick up the viola until high school. And
Hmm.
it's kind of funny because I originally just wanted to learn it out of being curious and just because I thought it was like a good thing to know. And then I ended up like, once people found out that I played viola, they kept asking more and more and whatnot. But I will say it's like my favorite instrument now, so I don't regret it at all. Um, yeah. And as far as composing goes, I actually got started composing very first time I tried anything was like in fifth grade. There was like a little short project, but when I really got composing was in middle school. When in like the band and orchestra classes, we had a project where we had to work with the visual arts class to collaborate in small groups and like come up with like a painting or something, and then write short pieces to go with them. And I always thought that was like a really cool idea, and I kept composing after that, and I continued like writing pieces for my friends. So mostly strings, violin duets and things like that, that we could play at assemblies or just for fun or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got into music, and I kind of continued that path through high school, just like writing music for friends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, the idea of writing music to a project where writing a piece to go with something visual is, it seems like, well, you do that once, why would you want to do that again? It's actually a really tried and true and really quite an inspirational way of just making music pretty much throughout your entire
It is.
life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
I think it's great that that's actually the way you started off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super it's a super beginning. You teach, right?
I do, yeah. I teach violin and viola privately, and I also work in a local El Sistema program, teaching
Hmm.
orchestral strings as well. And I also, I just recently this summer, I put together Youth Can Compose summer workshop for students 10 to 18 who are like new to composing. And
Hmm.
so we did I ended up having all violin students just coincidentally, but
All
um,
violin students.
yeah. And it was a small group of three students, but yeah, we explored improvisation, listened to new music because I hadn't really listened to new music like intentionally before, other than like probably the music they heard in like movies or whatever. And we took a lot of our improvisations and then worked some of those ideas into like developed pieces. So it's
That
pretty
sounds,
fun.
yeah, sounds great. Sounds really super. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how music is central to your life. Like, why is it important to you? Is it like, how does it operate as something important and vital to your life?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in one way I feel like it's a little bit cliche, but it's just like I've been making music and intrigued by music for so long. It's just I like can't imagine anymore,
Hmm.
like you know living without having like just the like performing and composing, teaching being central to what
Hmm.
I do because I've been doing it for so long, and it just um, for me too. I love the music community in the sense that like outside of music, we could all be like super different people, but there's this thing that brings us together and helps us to like encourages us to share other interests and things like that. And yeah, I really enjoy that part of it too, the communal aspect. For me, making music with and for other people is so central to like what I do. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That perspective is actually, I don't think I've heard it quite put put quite that way. I mean,
Huh.
we'll often talk about coming together and community and music for sure, but it's
Uh-huh.
always it's always the point of gathering that people talk about. They rarely mention the fact that it's true, you really can come from pretty much any array of
Anywhere.
backgrounds, but the music itself becomes this space where you could all get together.
Hmm.
That's really true.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe you could talk a little bit about something. Um, that is really, that sort of drives your music making? Is there anything in particular specifically that helps drive your music making?
As far as my writing process goes, I've been, I think for me, a lot of it is just like, just exploration and curiosity to begin with. Whether that's through improvisation or like with this fixed media project, fixed media is sort of new for me, and just like, what can I do with this? But, and, just like every little thing that's available. I love like researching different sounds, listening to like a lot of different pieces, even if I don't necessarily like use those techniques in my work. So just the kind of like never ending curiosity drives me a lot. And also it's interesting too, like when I look back on the pieces I've written over the last several years, I'm often kind of motivated by like either like portraying that journey of exploration in some sort, or kind of like portraying like sort of like an internal journey of sorts as well, which is, I find that's kind of like a theme in my music that I don't like intend to put it there. Like when I go into making it, but then when I look back at like the images that came to mind or the titles and whatnot, it kind of has been a running theme.
So let me see if I understand you correctly, because if I do, it's sort of a fascinating sort of creative reflection of the process in the work. So you're almost saying that the piece itself, so let me take a step back. You were really interested in you've got a sense of curiosity, you're interested in just exploring and growing as a creative artist and as a composer. But when you approach creating a new work, the piece itself sort of takes on this shape of exploration that you yourself are experiencing as you were creating the piece.
Yeah, I would say that.
That's great. It's very meta.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but yes, that's true.
Yeah, it's sort of fantastic. I mean, because that's truly not how a lot of people approach their work, or I mean, a lot of people come, they you can approach your work with from the outside, where you have sort of a pre-compositional setup, or you have some type of emotional affect you're trying to achieve. But this is very different. The piece itself has this exploration quality, and that's also reflecting basically you growing. Yeah, that's fantastic. Is there something sort of in your life that's non-musical that you have a deep interest in or connection to that's really important to you?
Well, this isn't completely non-musical, but that's okay. I guess maybe I'll cheat a little bit, and like outside of like performing, composing, I am like really passionate about like teaching like really young people, partly because of my own experience like as a composer, like learning music, or being exposed to writing music when I was young, because I feel like that's something that gets left out often.
I agree.
For various reasons, but I think it's something that's really empowering to students in a way, and it's there are many other activities as well that could be possibly equally empowering, but using music as a vehicle to kind of like give kids voices and let them make choices that they wouldn't normally get to do if they're in band and orchestra and like performing, like just the music that's handed to them. I think that's something that's really great.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really taken with the fact that you have, I wouldn't even say it's like an equal level of commitment. It's more like everything seems very fused together. So the teaching and the performing and the composing, it's not like there are lots of distinctions. It's sort of all part of the same process.
Yeah, and that's definitely evolved over like the past several years. I've been constantly trying to integrate that more, because especially when I first like got out of college, I felt like, okay, here are my like viola gigs, and then I'm like writing this piece on the side, but not everybody really knows I'm a composer, and then I teach, but the kids don't know what I do outside of like the orchestra concerts that I might invite them to, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Great. And in closing, I just wanted to know, is there anything that's really, I mean, you're quite young, you've got your whole future ahead of you, and if I wonder if there's like anything important that's sort of really that's really important to you in your life moving forward?
Hmm. I think for me, one of the things that I've been reflecting on a lot lately is just like being more self-aware. Um, and I often find, I think I mentioned this to someone a while back, like um, I think they had asked me once, like, what's the hardest parts about composing? And for me, it was like the process of composing, you know, kind of reveals to me the struggles that I'm dealing with, like even outside of, you know, being a musician or a composer. Like when I have trouble like sitting down to write or whatever, there's usually something that needs like balance or adjustment, like within myself or my own lifestyle, whatever that, you know. Yeah. So it actually, it's been an interesting thing and actually kind of like a fun experience too, to just, you know, kind of like take more time to like step back and reflect or
Yeah.
and observe like, oh, like I've had a really, you know, kind of crappy writing week. Why is that? And instead of just thinking about like, oh, you know, I must not be like a, you know, competent composer or something, you know, those lies that come through, that just kind of like observing, you know, what else is kind of going on around. And so
That's really, that's
yeah.
very healthy. I'll let you know that's really healthy. That's like, yeah, good for you.
Uh-huh.
That's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah. It's
Uh,
taken a long time to head in that direction, and it's definitely still a work in progress.
right. Well, life, in fact, is a work in
Yeah,
progress,
always,
for sure. But
definitely.
that's a really healthy way to move forward. Yeah, I'm going to think about a lot of that in a couple of weeks. That's great. Thank you for that. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk. I really enjoyed this and I appreciate your having this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much.